Uh, Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's Keeping an Eye on the Geopolitical Ball with me, Jamie Shea, Senior Fellow at Friends of Europe. We've just come out of a very hot summer, one of the hottest on record, with long days of sunshine, but we seem to be plunging as we go towards winter directly into an energy security crisis. Over the last couple of weeks, the typical price of a basket of oil, coal, and gas has gone up by 95%, is continuing to rise. The American motorist is paying $3 for a gallon of gasoline. The UK has just switched back on its coal-fired power stations to avoid a winter of discontent. And India and China have experienced a number of electricity blackouts. So what is happening here? Well, first, the global economy seems to be picking up much faster coming out of COVID than people had predicted, therefore putting the US, Europe, and Asia into competition with each other for available energy supplies. Secondly, many investors predicting, of course, the future of green energy, have stopped investing in fossil fuels like gas, oil, and coal or nuclear, thereby leading to a lack of capability in the United States and Europe. But thirdly, we have been hit by a number of sort of exceptional events over the last couple of months, which have complicated the situation. First of all, COVID has led to a lack of maintenance of pipelines and of power stations. Secondly, we've had accidents like a fire at a terminal linking a pipeline between France and the UK, which has made it more difficult for Europe to resupply Britain. We had an exceptionally wind-free summer in Europe, so that all of those wind farms were not able to turn and produce power. The very hot summers meant that we were running our air conditioners day and night, using up a lot of stored electricity. We had floods in Asia, which impeded coal deliveries, and drought in Latin America, which dried up rivers and led to a sharp drop in hydroelectric power. All of this shows that climate change both shows the urgent need for a shift to renewables, but all of these extreme weather events, by disrupting supplies and storage in the short run, mean that we need electricity still from fossil fuels to make up the difference. So how are we going to get out of this current mess? Well, clearly there have to be short-term measures and longer-term measures. In the short term, the European Commission this past week has come up with a toolbox 12-point plan to help consumers get through the winter. And these ideas are going to be discussed by an EU summit in Brussels this week. For example, cutting VAT on gas bills, cutting taxes on the producers of gas. So many of these companies not able to meet the higher prices have already gone bust, giving vouchers to buy gas to the 3 million very poor people in Europe who can't afford to turn on their gas cookers, according to the EU Confederation of Trade Unions, and speeding up a European scheme called an emissions trading scheme, so that taxes on fossil fuels, and only about 1/5 of all fossil fuel production is currently covered by some kind of tax, so that these taxes can be used to invest more in the green energy of the future. And finally, asking the European Investment Bank to see if it can raise some more capital on international financial markets to speed up the investment in the renewable fuels. All of this can help, as I've said, to avoid that winter of discontent and a possible kickback of European consumers against the expensive green transition if they are having to pay higher gas bills while we get there in the future. But we are obviously going to have to, in the long run, as I come to the long-term measures, we're going to need to invest more in that renewable transition. Last week, the International Energy Agency in Paris reported that currently only $2 trillion are being globally invested in renewables every year, whereas to make that transition to a zero carbon economy by 2050, it should be at least $4 trillion. So there's a long way to go. But what are the other long-term measures that we need to consider? Well, firstly, gas is clearly going to be the bridge to renewables because it pollutes far less than coal on oil. We cannot let Russia have a monopoly here, even if Mr. Putin often claims that he will produce the solution if we only certify his Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Russia already supplies 41% of Europe's gas. That would go up to 50% with Nord Stream. It would go over 50% on oil with Russia and OPEC together. And therefore, it's wise for Europe to look at alternative sources of supply. Just yesterday, for example, there was a meeting in Athens between Greece and Egypt to discuss how a pipeline can be built under the Eastern Mediterranean to supply Egyptian gas and solar power to southern Europe. There are gas fields off Israel and off Cyprus that could be developed. We need an agreement between Greece and Turkey to allow that exploration to go peacefully ahead. But it will considerably lessen our dependence on Russia if we use the Eastern Mediterranean sources more widely. We also need to produce more liquefied natural gas capability in Europe as well. There's about a 14% shortfall at the present time. Second thing is to speed up research into batteries and hydrogen as a very promising alternative power source and see how it can be easily transported. Thirdly, electricity. We need a single electricity market. It's somewhat strange that whereas 24% of all of gas and 46% of oil are sent across national borders, that is true for only 4% of electricity. So we need to build undersea cables and convert clean energy into hydrogen so that we can switch electricity across borders quickly. The next thing is carbon capture and storage. If it seems inevitable that we're going to depend upon fossil fuels for longer than we would like, we need to find how we can better take the carbon out of the atmosphere through exploitation of carbon capture and storage technologies. Finally, nuclear power, an unpopular subject, particularly when we think of 3 Mile Island or Fukushima, but nuclear power safety has made great advances in recent times. Also, nuclear power does not pollute, and it's not dependent upon wind and the sun. Yes, there are risks, but we have to balance the risks of using nuclear power against it, to my view, massively greater risks of continuing to burn a lot of oil, gas, and coal, and thereby add to global warming. So in the long run, there are 2 risks. Either we go too slowly with the transition to the green future, thereby leading to irreversible climate change, or we go too fast, leaving a gap between at the end of the use of fossil fuels and a time when we can rely upon renewables. And as I've said, if we get that wrong, there is a risk of a popular backlash of public opinion against the green future because it's either too unreliable or too expensive. That would not be good for our planet. Policymakers need to get the bridge right between going too fast and going too slow. Their answer in Glasgow at the COP26 in just a few days' time will be something that not just me, but you too should be eagerly anticipating. Thank you for watching and listening today. Look forward to engaging with you this time next week.